It is CBS Sports HQ. Chris Hassel, Amanda Guerra, Brady Quinn, Pete Prisco, and you got your power rankings with you today, don't you?
He's going to pick them apart.
No.
Fix everything I do.
You actually did a really good job this week. I am a little bit upset the fact that you just won't be very bold and just say, hey, I think this team should be number one, even though I moved them up a little.
I thought Pete might drop the Dolphins like down to 25 or so.
Exactly.
How many people last week sat in that chair and said, Dolphins are the best team, they're number one? Because every week we overreact to everything.
You can do that, though. It's your power rankings.
They weren't number one in my power rankings.
Pete, where were you when it came to the Dolphins last week compared to this week?
They were at 3, I think, last week. No, they were 4 last week.
And now they're
But
7.
did you get on the hype train?
No.
No.
Well, Ruben, one of our social media gurus, he went around to the entire company and said, who would you rather have, Tua or Josh Allen? More people said Tua.
That's surprising.
That speaks volumes about the people that work for our company right now.
We're in trouble. We're in trouble. The future does not look bright if that's the case.
There's not one general manager, including Chris Greer, who's the Dolphins general manager, who would take Tua over Josh Allen. Not one.
He took him over Justin Herbert.
Well, that was a mistake, too.
Okay, well, we can dive into that. Let's talk about Josh Allen. We're not going to talk about Tua. The Bills moving up in your power rankings, just one spot, not all the way up to number 1. They moved up to number 4, though. You did say, though, that Josh Allen is playing like an MVP again.
The last 3 games of the season, he's been the best quarterback in the league, period. Better than nobody's been better. And what he did last week, carving that defense to shreds, Brady, it was awesome to watch. And he's owned the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you go back and look at every single game against them. He's dominated them. They had no answer for him. That's a bad look for the Miami Dolphins defense. And I know they're missing some guys. Jalen Phillips wasn't there. Jalen Ramsey isn't there. But you're supposed to be better than that.
And also, let's not forget, Vic Fangio taking over as defensive coordinator. This is just the beginning in year 1 of Vic Fangio there as their defensive coordinator. And I think this defense will continue to better as they get healthier, but also fitting into that scheme. Josh Allen's been phenomenal, though. What's surprising is I think if you looked at the teams that you've got ranked right now, wouldn't you say that maybe of the 3 ahead of them, that Josh Allen's playing the best football at the most important position, and you could probably make a case for putting Buffalo at number 1?
I wouldn't put him ahead of the Niners. You could make a case for him ahead of the Eagles, but the Eagles are still undefeated. You could make a case for him ahead of the Chiefs, but the Chiefs find ways to win. And the Chiefs' defense is actually playing well, even though Zach Wilson played well against them last week.
You know what the truth is?
Buffalo's defense is playing really well.
It played great, and they were banged up, right? Yeah. No Poyer in that one. Tre'Davious Wright got hurt. We'll see how that impacts them moving forward. But he doesn't want to admit this, but he's got the Chiefs ahead of the Bills because of Taylor Swift. It's having a Swift effect even on Pete Prisco.
I promise you, that's not the reason.
2 minutes, 25 seconds into the show.
It was Noah, our producer, in my ear. He said I had to mention it at some point.
He knows I sit there every Sunday whenever there's a game, and I can't wait for the 14,000 camera shots of her standing up in the box.
I could see Brady being a Swiftie.
I'm not.
Undercover.
You know what? I used to be when she was just doing country music, but then she got too mainstream, and I jumped off the bandwagon. By the way, Bills, Jags, London. The 2 teams you love the most in the NFL this week. Bills and Jags. That should be an interesting game, though. Let's move down to a team that just jumped into the top 10. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, up 6 spots to number 10. Are they the class of that division, the NFC South this season?
Yes, they are. And when I went there in May, we went there to mini camp, and I wrote about this, and I said, oh, we talked to Baker, we talked to a bunch of the staff, the front office, the coaches, and I said, they're the team to beat in the division. Then we went back in July for training camp, and it was a quarterback competition, and Baker didn't look the same, and Kyle Trask was actually pushing him. And so I changed my tune, and I said, okay, the Saints will win the division. I'm regretting that. They're the best team in the division, and Baker Mayfield's playing really good football, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder, Brady. I love that.
He does, and he should be, because I think he's watching probably what's going on in Cleveland right now, where Deshaun Watson opts not to play after being cleared to play, and is maybe saying to himself, I wonder how Jimmy Haslam, the Browns, feel about that now. But look, he's been phenomenal, and I'm happy for him. You know, it took him a while, obviously, to find that spot now after going to Carolina and the Rams last year. But I also think you have to credit their defense. The Bucs defense has been stingy. They're playing ignited and fired up. A little bit too, Derek Carr didn't look healthy. I mean, he didn't look 100%. They might have been better off having Jameis Winston start last week instead of Derek Carr. But the bottom line is, you have them 10th in your power ranking. I think you can make a case for having them 8th if you feel like they are the best in the NFC South. With 4 divisions on each side. Let's do the math.
Brady's really overthinking this thing.
Yeah, you really are. Just because you're...
You know what? Because it said he agreed
Isn't
with
that
you,
what we're supposed to do?
He wants to pick it apart, so he's finding tiny little things.
Really, you're being nitpicky right there.
I'm just saying, you should have a little higher.
Brady picky, because that's like a new thing, too.
Brady picky?
You pick apart everything.
Why do you think I'm here right now?
to pick
Someone's got
apart.
to push back. Yeah, someone's got to push back.
Yeah, but you won't win, so don't try it.
Okay, so Brady, we'll start with you on this. So the Bucs moved up 6 spots. They were not your biggest riser, though. That was the Texans moving up 7 spots to number 12. I was listening to with the first pick with Ryan and Rick Spielman there, and they said of all the rookie quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud has been the most impressive. I knew you could make a case for Anthony Richardson, though, but also what DeMeco Ryans is doing there. So
yeah, I think new head coach, new quarterback. We weren't really sure what the expectations would be, and he's done phenomenal so far this year. I think you put him and Anthony Richardson both in the same category, both in the same division. We weren't sure what this division would look like. Well, guess what? Everyone's 500 right now, Pete. And it's interesting. You move them up 7 spots to number 12. I look at it this way. Houston's probably played some of their best football so far, and kudos to them. The Jacksonville Jaguars have not, and yet they're still sitting there, tied at 2-2, sitting in their division. I think it's probably a scary thing for a lot of the other teams in the AFC South if the Jaguars can figure this thing out.
The Texans beat the daylights out of them 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
They have to be ahead of them. Are they a better team? Probably not, but they did beat the daylights out of them. And I'm with you on DeMeco Ryans. I love what I've seen from this team. When you pop on the tape, and I know people say when you play hard, it means you're not a good team, but they play hard and they're now becoming a pretty good team. Backup offensive linemen, they played with 4 of them. The left tackle was the 3rd left tackle the other day. That's the Steelers' front, and he stood in there and made throws. That was an impressive performance. I love what I've seen from him so far, but more than that, Nico Collins has become a big-time player. They can run the ball a little bit. Even though they haven't been great running the ball, they're getting better but as they move along. And defensively, they have guys that show up and make plays. I love what DeMeco Ryans is doing.
You got to give DeMeco Ryans credit. What about Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator? He's never called plays before, and they look awesome out there. I mean, he's been able to orchestrate an offense that not only is able to protect C.J. Stroud with those backup offensive linemen, but help him, kind of deal with that rookie learning curve and distribute the football, and he looks phenomenal so far.
Another one off the tree, right? The Shanahan tree. It just keeps spreading and growing and growing. Mike Shanahan, I meant. And
right.
Down to Kyle, and then Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur, all of them. They're good coaches.
Interesting division with all those teams tied there. A bunch of teams in that division up several slots this week, including the Texans. They're at the Falcons this week. Looking at Pete's bottom part of the rankings, and you're going to see some teams here that you wouldn't have expected to see, like the Cincinnati Bengals, down 5 spots to number 23. I don't think there's any argument there at the very bottom. The Chicago Bears at 0-4 after yet another head-scratching defeat.